Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, and as I've said in my past two videos, I am spending much of all of September and early October talking about my father. Today I am Sebastian the Eulogizer, talking about my dad who recently passed. So I wanted to share some poems that on Poetry Thursday, where I feel that have somewhat connected me to him, or when I read them, they made me think of my dad. Some of them I found a while ago. Some of them I've only just encountered as I've been looking for more poetry like that. So one poem that I want to talk about today is about is a poem about funerals, and has even been featured in pop culture before. I am referring to Funeral Blues by W.H. Auden. For those who don't know, W.H. Auden was a poet who lived in the 1900s, I believe until 1971 when he died. He frequently wrote about morality and religion and politics, one of his famous poems being September 1st, 1939, and with a date like that, you can see what he might be getting at with the nature of the poem, like with the name of the poem. Although he wrote about these heavy topics, he was considered lesser than his contemporaries. Some people thought he was less than Yeats or T.S. Eliot, and a lot of people have supported him, but most people have found him to be not as good as the really good poets of the time. Whether or not that's true, I don't really know, but it is obvious that time has been very kind to W.H. Auden, because a lot of his poems have been used in movies before. Specifically, the poem that I'm talking about was featured in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, so being used in a very successful movie to sort of immortalize that poem. It doesn't matter if Auden was good or not. It shows that his legacy is continuing on and on. So as you can see, perhaps you don't need to be good or bad in this world. You just simply need people to remember who you were. That sounds terrible when you put words to it, though. So without further ado, let's talk about that poem. I'll read it, I'll do a brief analysis, and we will move on from there. Funeral Blues. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. Silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows around the white necks of the public doves, let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good. And so that was Funeral Blues by W.H. Auden. I think it's easy to see what he's getting at with this poem. It seems like the process of mourning is an entire affair where you have to, silence everything and, schedule things, schedule the mourning essentially, and just get rid of anything else in your schedule in order to allow yourself to grieve and properly celebrate the life of someone who had died. That's especially evident in the final verse of this poem. Auden says, "The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon, dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood. For nothing now can ever come to any good." And the first thing that that I get at that is like he's much like at the beginning of the poem, he's just like, cancel everything. It's not the time. Like it's there's so much going on, especially with the death, that like I only want to deal with that at that time. And that's pretty much how I felt when I heard that my dad died. Like one of the first things I did was I actually went into a meeting at work, and I didn't tell anyone that my dad had died, which I realize now it was a mistake. But afterwards, after I told one of my coworkers and I got things organized, like I kind of didn't want to do any work because it felt like why do I need to do that work? Like I should be mourning now. Like this is my entire life for the next, I don't know, week, 2 weeks, however long it takes. This is what I need to do. But what also stands out to me with that final verse is how, like he says, the stars are not wanted now. And also, for nothing now can ever come to any good. And I really understand that feeling after my dad died, because it really feels like the great things in life, the stars and the moon and the sun, like they shine brightly, but not so much now that a person that you loved has died. It feels wrong. Like it doesn't feel normal. Like when I went outside after my dad had died, like I saw the sun was shining and it was very bright, and I'm like, why is the sun so bright? And it's not that the fact that the sun was shining any brighter than usual. Like it's just the fact that my world was now different, and it couldn't accommodate those good things, those things, because everything else just felt so hollow and empty. And so I kind of really understand that feeling, and that initial feeling that how can anything be good after this? This is the worst thing that's ever happened. Like the pain of losing a loved one, like it's terrible. Like if you lost a loved one out there, I'm sure you know. And like I'm sure, like I can tell you that like the pain of losing a loved one is good, and it feels like how could anything be good after this? And like I do have friends, so I have been able to talk with them and come to understand that things can be good. It just initially no, it feels gross and wrong, and it's hard to see the light in the world when something so dark happens. The other thing I want to talk about is the third verse of this poem. Auden says, "He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong." And I didn't have the best relationship with my father, but he was still very important to me. And I'm especially realizing that now after he's gone, how important he was in my upbringing and helping me to form my identity and who I was. And it really does feel like he was so essential, and now that's just gone. Like, how do you move on from that? That's very tough to figure out. But I'm doing my best there. The other thing is where Auden says, "I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong." And although like I began to suspect that my dad might die soon, because he was at that point in his life, like I knew it was coming, but like I still felt like that love would last forever, that your parents are immortal in some way. But I was wrong. Like, and even though I knew it was coming, it doesn't make it any easier. Like, you can expect the worst, but when the worst gets here, it's still the worst. It still feels terrible and awful, and you want it to go away. And so, like, this entire poem really speaks to me, and getting at the emotions that were there when my dad died, and some of the emotions that I'm still feeling now. So I definitely really like this, and how Auden manages to get at the underlying emotion of the funeral blues, so to speak. So like I can definitely see why this was used in several movies. Like it really sticks out, and like if this is something that Auden had in his other work, then yeah, he definitely deserves credit for being a good writer, because this captures some very real human emotion. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Funeral Blues by W.H. Auden. Something that really gets at me at this point in my life, knowing that my dad is dead, and I'm coping with all of that. I definitely recommend that you check it out. Maybe it'll help you understand your own grief or some other type of sadness that's going on in your life. I will put a link to it in the description so you can find it. Otherwise, don't forget to comment below if you want to talk about this poem and something that stands out to you. I would love to have a discussion about this. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about W.H. Auden if they don't already know, as well as Poetry Thursday. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and funerally travels. Farewell.